There we are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody out there. Welcome to today's conversation. We're so excited to be here with you. My name's Enolia and my co-host, Sarah Jane. Want to say hello?
Hello.
And we have our special guest, Cloe Cordero. We're so excited to have you, Chloe. You want to say hello? And let me
Hi, thank
introduce
you.
Yeah. And let me introduce Chloe just for a moment. She is an addiction therapist coach, a Ho'oponopono practitioner, a holistic healer, and she is living currently in Paris. So as we traverse the world from England and Paris and Africa, it's wonderful how technology can bring us all together. Chloe was originally born in New York City and raised in Belgium, and she studied psychology. And we are so excited for the fact that she's here. She is a certified transformational coach, and her topic today is a powerful one. Today, we are going to talk about self responsibility from powerlessness to sovereignty. And this is huge because there are moments in our lives when we all feel powerlessness. And how to reach within and find our power is a tremendous task. And some of us spend a lifetime doing it. So I'm going to open up and just basically ask Chloe, talk to us about what powerlessness means and where you were at possibly or potentially in your life that you had to come from powerlessness to a different level.
Wow. So I'm taking everything in. There's so much, obviously, I would love to say about powerlessness and, how to own our power and take our power back. I feel like I want to talk from a perspective, of a woman because that's my experience in this lifetime. But this doesn't exclude men, and I'll be happy to have their insight as well in that. But as a woman who was born in this era, powerlessness for me, it was that feeling of getting ripped or having my power getting taken away from me without, being prepared or, yeah, surprisingly taking out of me as a child. So I feel like in the era we're living in today, the main issue we have is the rejection of vulnerability, softness, and kindness, and what is our true power as women. And as a child, I was, that very kind, compassionate, optimistic, and kind of child who wanted to really bring peace on the world. I was very much aware of all the wars, the violence, the difficulty our world was having. And it really, really made me sad to acknowledge that when I came into this world. So I knew there was something I wanted to do about it. And it was with all that kindness and compassion that I had that I wanted to change the world. And as I grew up and went through different experiences, I saw how our world actually rejected so much what was so natural to us as human beings, which is compassion, kindness, and vulnerability and connectiveness with our emotions. So really, what powerlessness for me felt was being ripped off, having my power being taken away from me, and just my true being not being allowed to be who I was. Kind, compassionate, vulnerable. And I don't even want to use the word vulnerable, honestly, because it has such a negative connotation, I feel, for many of us. Um, but I kind of want to use the word of just openness and authenticity, um, which felt like, being ourselves sometimes. I'm sure a lot. of us can resonate with that, but being ourselves sometimes can feel vulnerable because we feel exposed. We feel like, we might be rejected or judged. So that's really what powerlessness felt for me.
Excellent. Sarah Jane?
Oh, I so get that. I so get that. So because of my own early life experiences, that feeling unwanted, unloved, not good enough, not heard. It absolutely, and becoming a people pleaser for the better part of 40 years just to try and be accepted, being afraid of doing the things that really spoke to you because of other people's judgment of you. And I think the biggest, and I know I've said this so many times, but because I so believe in this, the biggest enlightenment was, why am I worrying about what other people are thinking about me? They aren't thinking about me because they're worrying about what's going on in their own lives. And that was a huge weight off my shoulders of realizing that actually the majority of people are not thinking about you. And if they are, they're thinking from their experiences, from their perspective. And there's a famous quote from a famous actor, and I can't remember his name offhand, and it's none of our business what other people think of us. And it is so true. And when we can truly live that, it is so freeing. And I want to say hi to Victoria, who's joined us. It's great to have you with us. Thank you. Enolia.
So, this is a huge topic. I mean, we could do a whole show on powerlessness. It's huge. When I think about powerlessness, I think about some of the things that we as human beings are denied. Denied the right to love, denied the right to be heard, denied the right to be seen, denied the right to be listened to. I mean, all of those aspects, when you have those, give you value. And then when you accept that denial as your truth, well, I shouldn't be heard, I shouldn't be seen. What you've just done is you've given away your power. So that powerlessness can come twofold in the respect that, yes, in the denial, you feel powerless, but then we then grow up accepting what has happened to us in as a child or growing up, accepting that denial, like we shouldn't be seen or we shouldn't be heard. And then we turn around and we give our power away because we believe it. And so it's a double-edged sword in the regards that you really need to reach deep to go, even though I was told as a child, children should be seen and not heard, and then therefore I was denied the right to speak. And, and then I believe that's true. And then all of a sudden I don't speak up as an adult because I was told as a child, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. How do I break through that? How do I work and figure out what would actually make me feel empowered again? So what are your thoughts on that, Chloe? That kid that gets denied.
Oh, Enolia. So much. Thank you. Everything you shared so much resonated with me, actually. So I wanted to bounce back on accepting to be denied, accepting, to not be heard or seen, or as you said, the really believing what people said in the past as children. And as an addiction therapist coach, I wanted to say one of the things that I faced myself regarding trauma around, my truth and being able to express myself and being able to let go of those beliefs was that usually that's when the power of sovereignty comes in and self-responsibility. We have the power and the self-responsibility to heal, and we have the power to self-heal. And so what I found was, and you said it very well, Enolia, instead of holding everything as truth and letting my subconscious mind or my inner child dictate how I was behaving as an adult, I saw that I had the power to heal myself and to let go of those beliefs. But one of the things that I have found on my journey was that it takes a lot of commitment to heal. That it's
Mm,
not an easy road, and I'm sure you both will agree with that. It is a true commitment to yourself, because I remember me seeing myself self-sabotaging, and I had a huge destructive behavior with myself. I was so abusive towards myself. And I remember watching myself in the mirror and, looking, facing all the eating disorder, the anxiety, the self-harming I was doing to myself, and saying, I'm done with this. This is enough. And I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I promise you that I'm gonna kill, all those beliefs. I'm gonna kill them all. And I really use those kind of blunt words because I needed to shake myself. But I really remember myself saying that I was done with all of this. And I had to commit to myself. I had to make a true commitment to myself that no matter what, no matter how hard it was going to get, no matter how many times I would want to quit and to, give in into my addictions, give in into my sabotagers, I was going to find the way to heal my trauma, whatever I had gone through, my sexual trauma, my childhood trauma, and all of that story that was dictating the way I was. And I truly today believe that we are able to come back to zero as if all of that had never happened to us. And we can absolutely exist without our story. We can absolutely be reborn, and we don't have to let our story dictate our life and our future.
absolutely. Sarah Jane?
A comment that you made, Enolia, and I was thinking about, sort of the childhood and being told to be quiet, children should be seen and not heard. Yeah, absolutely. Heard all of that. I may not have had children, but I definitely have nieces and nephews who now have their own children. and and I watch them. And do you know what? It is very difficult because I'm there's an element of playing devil's advocate, because I think it is for all of us, every single one of us, to take this on board for the children that are today. Because it is not for the children to try and adjust things. It is for the adults to adjust things for the children of today. And the truth is that we were brought up hearing, "Will you be quiet? Mother's talking." Because children don't think, they have no perception of mummy's having a conversation, I can't interrupt, I must wait for there to be. We learn that. We have to learn that. Now, obviously, if there's a fire or there's something dangerous happening, the child has got to be given permission to say yes. But it's the parent also saying, I'm having a conversation. We can have a conversation in a minute when I've finished. Rather than, will you go away? Will you shut up? I'm talking. Because there's terminology like that used.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was watching one of my great nieces at the weekend. Boy, is she at a difficult age, and she is so sweet, but she is so struggling. And she obviously wanted to say something, and she wasn't being listened to. And when she did get to say it, she was in frustration. So the way it came out didn't come out well. And oh, bless, my heart went out to her. But it also went out to her mother, who said, she's just like I was at that age. so,
Mm.
but but it's just a repeating pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pattern that's to be broken. And it's how we support our inner child at the same time of supporting the mothers of today, because the grandmothers do have way more patience. They really do, because they don't have the child the whole time, for a start.
Yeah.
And yes, and there's a saying going around about, please listen to your children for the little things today, so that they feel they can come to you for the big things tomorrow.
Mm.
And so there is a much bigger thing. Yes, I know we're talking about us, ourselves. We really are, and it is about choices. It is very difficult to support a child with choices because of their limited understanding that they can only gain through experiences and growth. And so it is being gentle with ourselves and learning to be gentle with ourselves and being totally aware when we are around children. Being very careful if you're not the mother, but being as supportive as we can, so that hopefully, actually, our jobs become not necessary. But unfortunately, they're going to be necessary for a long time to come. But
Yeah.
so yes, I think I've said enough, but I hope I've got the point across.
I think you did, but and not but and and I want to deep dive into addiction. And I want to talk about this because we talk about these aspects and we talk about, yes, you know, that beautiful child, and this is how we need to talk to her, and this is what we need to do. But let's be honest, most of us, not until we get into adulthood, learn how to talk to our own inner child. Okay? So here we are, we've been hurt, we've been traumatized, we have these issues. And every person carries their issues differently. I definitely carried my issue differently than, let's say, my sister. Okay? And here we are as adults, and we're trying to face ourselves in the mirror. And the habitual pattern of looking in the mirror, not liking what you see, and then figuring out how not to be present. Because addiction is about not being present. Okay? So, and you know, those of you who are sitting there going, oh, I don't have an addiction, we all have addictions. We all have addictions. And I don't care if it's, you know, the obvious addictions are drinking and smoking and drugs, right? But those of you who are out there who have addictions to shopping, those of you who are out there, I was a food person. I used food as my excuse. Okay, so it's like, oh, it's time to celebrate, let's eat. Oh, it's sad, let's eat. Oh, it's this, it's that, let's eat. And there's addiction to money and lifestyle. I can't fathom not living at this particular lifestyle stage, blah, 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 blah. So your addiction is workaholics, because to fathom that you can't be here, your earning potential can't be anything other than here. It's just unthinkable. And then there's addiction to competition, having to compete, can't figure out how to work side by side with someone. Got to compete against them. Got to step on them in order to make yourself feel big, or you know, or you feel small in comparison because they are cheap, but you couldn't ever come to terms that you're in a circle and you're equal, and you're both rising at the same time. It has to be one or the other. There has to be a winner. There has to be a loser. So all of these aspects, and I say we're not present because to look ourselves in the mirror and to see ourselves in the mirror means we can't lie to ourselves anymore. And this is powerful because you said it, Chloe, but you glossed over it to, you kind of threw it out there. And I want to bring it right back home because that's powerful what you said. And I know what my addictions were, and mine definitely was work. Mine definitely was food. Mine definitely was, earning potential, all of those things that I had to come to terms with when I decided to walk my spiritual path and really face myself and say, I'm going to tell my truth to myself. I'm not going to get away with the fact that I know that my inner child is very destructive. So there's my self-destructive. She's nasty. She could push a person away and want to destroy the relationship because she wanted to defend herself. And that's how she did it. And that's how I had to face my inner child. But I also had to face myself as an adult and not be a victim, and face myself as an adult, and find my courage to tell the truth to myself, let alone stand in front of everybody else and say, oh, yeah, I do that sometimes. Yeah, that's me. That's me. So I know I said it, but I really wanted to frame it. So Chloe, we'll go over to you.
Thank you for bringing that back in, Enolia. So different things I wanted to bounce back on. I mean, I resonate completely with what Sarah you said right before. Our responsibility is how we raise children. That's what is going to decide. That's for sure. And it starts with obviously us and changing ourselves and breaking those patterns, those family patterns, those past lives patterns, generational patterns, whatever we call it. But we are here to break those for our children. So that's really something that I understood, that I had to come to terms with, that my mission here on this planet was to break patterns. And there was, it was not just about my little self, my little comfort, my little happiness. It was for a greater good, for a collective good. And I really had to, and it was not easy, I really had to accept that that was my mission here on earth, that whatever, my ego wanted, whatever addiction I.
Oh,
she
bless
got
her.
pushed off. Yeah.
Something's happened.
She'll come right back on.
Yes, I'm sure she will. Folks, the joy of technology. Victoria, thank you for joining us and for sharing with us. I'm not going to read absolutely everything Victoria's written because quite prolific, bless her. But she has said, I love that. And she was immediately after I finished speaking, and all she said was, I'm thinking she's talking about that comment about not having to, none of our business what other people think of us. Oh no, about the parents don't listen now. Mm-hmm. Then the children won't feel that they can speak to them later. And she said, I love that. I feel like I talk to my mum about anything. However, I have learnt many destructive patterns that I've chosen to break in this lifetime. And it absolutely, that is what it's about. And she said that her addiction was food. My addiction, because I will add to that while we're waiting for Chloe to come back, my addiction was people pleasing. It was absolutely people pleasing. It didn't, and it took an awful lot to push my buttons for me to lose my temper. Oh, but boy, you didn't want to be anywhere near me if I lost my temper. And you mentioned about self-destructive patterns and breaking relationships. Absolutely. I never expected relationships to last. So it got to the stage where something would happen. There would be that trigger. And I'd think, right, it's the end of the relationship. And I would create that as a self-fulfilling prophecy of relationships don't last. So I absolutely get it. I just wish I could understand the addiction I now have for chocolate, because it's not a lifelong addiction.
Yes.
I have got to get over it. Do something about it, like stop eating it. Enolia, now that I've had my 5 pennies worth.
Yes, and just so that you know, Chloe is working on coming back on. Her phone had an issue, so she's working on that technology piece. So, yeah, I want to talk about this because I remember when I was leaving corporate, and one of the things that I had to realize is that there was also an addiction to work. And, for me to fathom that I wasn't working, I had to work, and I was having health issues at the time. And I had to step back, putting in 80-hour work weeks, and then being a full-time mother of two. And then, so I would literally go to work from 8 to 5, come home, cook dinner, take care of the kids, put them to bed at a strict bedtime hour of 7 p.m. because they were very young, and then start work at 8 p.m. and then work until midnight to get the additional work that I needed to get done, and then rest, go to sleep, and start all over again. And that was insane. And I did that for years until my body said, I can't stand the stress. And then all of a sudden, I was having lymph node problems. And I never recognized that as an addiction. I never recognized the fact that putting in hours and being driven, and I got to compete, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, and setting the standard and this criteria for myself was the only reasoning that I had, was that I have to be super mom. I have to be the superwoman. I just have to be able to deliver. And I wore all of the roles: the mom hat, the wife hat, the soccer mom hat, the baseball mom hat, on top of the work hat, and, the project manager hat, and the departmental head hat, and it's crazy what we do to ourselves. And we don't call it addiction. And was I present during that time? Well, I thought I was, but I realized that I wasn't when I had to slow down. Slow down and do what? I wanted to rush through the day, And you know what? I'll never forget, because my ex-husband actually brought my attention to it when we were on vacation. We took a vacation, and here we are. I remember we were in Canyonlands National Park. We're sitting at this plateau, the most grandest, beautiful plateau that you could see, and it's beautiful, and the fresh air, gentle breeze, it's beautiful. And you know what I was doing? I was talking about the next thing that we wanted to do. And that's when he said to me, you're not enjoying what's in front of you. You don't even see what's in front of you, because you're already on to the next thing. And that's when I had to say, wow, he's right. He's literally right. So that whole piece, what we have to do is we have to look at the habitual patterns in our life, like you said, Sarah Jane, and we have to face them, and we have to go, why am I doing this? If it has implications on my health, if it has implication on my psyche, why am I doing this? How is this serving me? And why can't I let it go? Why am I driven to be this person that isn't healthy for me? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's hopefully by us having conversations like this, people won't need the wake-up calls that so many of us have had. And these wake-up calls can be very, very uncomfortable. Blooming horrible. But, and you've only got to listen to many of the top speakers today, and they've lost jobs, lost homes, lost everything, lost health, lost mobility. They've lost something major in their lives. So I suppose in some respects, the broken jaw for me, 6 months of pain and sleepless nights, was actually relatively minor in comparison to what some people go through. But it was enough.
Mm-hmm.
Things, obviously, I'm assuming that we get these nudges from time to time. There's going to be something that nudges us. But when do we listen? Only when somebody sticks a bomb under us and makes us listen. And so my hope is that programs like this can support people so that they don't actually need that huge wake-up call. the job being pulled out from under them, losing absolutely everything, including their home, and finding themselves living in a car. Because people have found that. Neil Donald Walsh, who's the author of the Conversation with God books and so many other books and all the things that he does, he found himself on the streets. And there's others that have found themselves actually physically incapable of doing anything. They've lost mobility, pain in back, whatever. How bad has it got to get for us to realize and to realize that we can make a brand new choice for ourselves? Because it was about choice. It was just like, hang on, I'm being used left, right, and center. And I'm doing it to myself. If anybody asked, I'd say yes, because I wished to be accepted. My addiction was that need to be accepted, to be loved. And it was learning that the most important person to love me was me.
You're absolutely right. And I want to reemphasize that. The most important person to love me is me. And so when we talk about the addiction, we talk about the powerlessness, but let's talk about a little bit that road to recovery. And for me, it really, really stems to learning how to accept the totality of yourself. And what that means is that you can't cut off that addictive person. You can't act like that addictive person doesn't exist. It exists. It's part of you. It's who you are. But what you can do is you can face that addictive part of yourself and send that person or that part of yourself the love that it needs to say, I will no longer continue this habit, this habitual pattern, and you will no longer get to lead in my life. That is the first commitment and step. And I'm gonna make it akin to this. We all have a wheel of personalities and parts of ourselves. We all have aspects of ourselves, and there's one aspect of ourselves that's the courageous woman. There's one aspect of ourselves that's the victim, the child, the this, the that, the other. When you are in your addiction, what aspect, what part of yourself, and you can name it if you want, is leading? And if I know that aspect, now use the child because that's the easiest. And there's the victim, and there's the this, and there's the jealous woman, and there's the this and that. And they're the positive aspects too. It's not all negative. But when my child is leading, I realize that I'm destroying a relationship. I'm questioning a relationship. There's something that is a key indicator that she's leading my life because the same patterns happen that are not productive, that are not positive in my life. And when she's leading, she's moody, she's impatient, she wants to know what she wants to know, she wants the instant gratification, she doesn't want to be taking time to go over it over and over and over again. And so when I get like that, when I find those characteristics, when I find that mood, I realize, oh my gosh, she's in the lead. No, can't have this. She's going to destroy this relationship if I don't stop letting her lead. And that's when you face yourself and you're saying, who's leading my life? What part of me is leading my life? And if my little girl is not serving me, she needs to get to the back of the line, and I need to call on my courageous woman, and I need to go, courageous woman, please take over, who is kind-hearted, who is thoughtful, who is listening, who is considerate. And by the way, she's not addicted. She's not addictively, habitually creating a pattern over and over and over and over again to do. And I'll pause there because I can keep going.
But okay, there's an element of concern that comes in here, because you're then trying to cut that aspect of you out that is trying to get your attention. there is something that is hurting deep inside you that is saying it's time for us to go through this, to come out the other side so that I can be whole again and become the beautiful aspect of you that I was always meant to be. So I look at it as being, how can I help this aspect of me become the beautiful part of me that is missing and reconnect with me? And okay, I don't want to go into what I personally do because this is not about us, but that is what I do. I help to heal the inner child.
Mm-hmm.
And when she feels heard and loved, she can reintegrate and help you to be whole.
Right.
And she doesn't keep coming back at you doing the same old thing again.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm going to take a little bit different spin on this, okay? Because for me, in our wheel of personalities, in the aspects of who we choose to lead our life, it is not about not acknowledging that part. It is about acknowledging that part. It is about letting that part know that she is loved and that she is acknowledged and that she can be healed, and that where does she need to be healed? Where does she need her trauma? And we focus on that, but she cannot lead the life. And that's the difference for me, okay? Because when she is healed and when she is intact, my child doesn't lead me. My courageous woman does. My child is a part of me. She can come up and she can have joy and she can have pleasure. And she's a part of me. I will never deny her that.
Oh,
Exactly.
It's important to heal the child. But you know what? Every now and again, it is great to let the child take over.
Oh, sure.
And allow her to help you to realize that you're allowed to have fun.
Yes, and that's true. But there's many, many aspects of us that lead. Many, many aspects.
And Chloe's done the same as she was doing before we went live. She's here, but she's not.
So we'll just hang out until she comes in.
Well, yeah, but I'm hoping that she realizes that we can't see and hear her.
Okay.
That's the important thing. So as much as I don't want to say, yeah, can you connect with her?
Yes, I am.
I've been trying to send her an email. I know won't work. So sorry, folks. This is what I love, and this is what also can frustrate me no end. But I try not to show that technology. And we're usually very lucky. We usually get people back in the room quite quickly. Unfortunately, we haven't with Chloe for some reason.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going on. As much as we tried a test yesterday, this is why she was actually on her mobile phone, because it looks like the computer doesn't work, and we tested on the mobile phone. So hopefully we will get her back, because obviously this is her choice of conversation. It's just that we have a lot to add to it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because of our own life experiences.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact, and it's why I love doing these conversations, is because we do come from totally different perspectives.
Yes, we do.
And if listening to me, you're thinking, oh, what's she talking about? Or you may think of Enolia and think, actually, no, I prefer what Sarah's saying. It doesn't matter who is speaking to you, whose words are resonating with you. It's find that person whose words do resonate
with you. Absolutely.
And if you can work with them to support you, that is the important thing. That's why I love doing these and listening, because there's no two ways about the fact we do come from different directions. We absolutely do, because we come from, in some respects, different cultures even. And I know I've said this before, but when I had a conversation with my two sisters, and we were literally all brought up. Same things happened again. Oh no! Excellent.
Yes, we got her. We got her. Hopefully, she'll be able to get on camera.
Can you hear us, Chloe? Can you speak to us?
That's a good sign.
Well, is it a good sign? It's gone black.
It went black, but usually that's the picture trying to come in.
But we can't hear you either. We can see that you're here. And this is such a shame, because I think this is a very, very important conversation for people to listen to. She's left the room again. God bless.
Yeah.
So going back to my sisters, the conversation we had, and this was only a couple of years ago, you would think that we'd been brought up in 3 different families because of how we as an individual at the very young age felt about what was happening in our lives. And as a child, this is about how things feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're feeling loved and cosseted, don't get me wrong, there can be too much of that, because then it becomes tied to the mother's apron strings. And it is about us having the freedom to be our own selves.
Mm-hmm.
We're not here to be a mirror image of our mothers or our fathers, or to take on the role, oh, we didn't get a chance to go to university, so you're going to university. We didn't get a chance to do the high-powered roles, so you're going to do it. You know what? Let your child be who your child wishes to be. If they choose to take the opportunities. And take the opportunities yourself. You don't have to be late teens, early 20s to go to university. I've got a friend of mine, when I first met him, he'd just started a law degree at the age of 49. Because that was his choice. And he's coming up 70 now, and having done a psychology degree as well. You know, so you know, there is no, you have to do things by a certain time in life.
Yes. So I sit back and I think about it, and part of that sovereignty and part of that ability to stand in your authenticity and in your power is when you basically, oh, there's Chloe. Let's hope that she comes through. I'm hoping. Yay!
Coming through.
Excellent.
Yes.
We have you back. Can you remember where you were?
Yes.
Yes, I do remember where we were. We were talking about addiction.
Yes, I took some notes.
Actually, I'm gonna turn it over to you to let you continue if you want to.
Oh, Chloe, you've frozen on us.
Oh, we have frozen screen.
Oh, bless.
We have frozen screen.
Because we can't hear her either. A frozen screen's not a problem, it's the hearing her. I know this is not how we prefer to play it, but maybe if you turn your camera off, Chloe, maybe we can hear you. Maybe the signal's just not good enough for the cameras.
Yeah.
I don't know whether she can even hear us, but she's still, oh.
Yeah, she left the room again.
Well, she hasn't actually.
So what I was saying is, so what I was saying was that if you stand in your authenticity and you really face this yourself in the mirror, and you understand that the vulnerability, although feeling counterintuitive, isn't the strength, it actually is. Being vulnerable and being able to face yourself and say, these are the things that have bothered me. These are the things that I want to pass through. These are the things that I want to break through. And here it is. These are the things that hurt me actually the most, but being able to have that dialogue with yourself. And then, just saying, this is what I need to work on. This is what I need to heal. This is how I need to heal it. This is the work that I need to do. That in and of itself is a key part of the whole journey. And many of us, you know, that vulnerability, it hurts us to be vulnerable. We don't want to be vulnerable, especially not in front of anyone. And it's a hard and sometimes very arduous or tumultuous journey, but it works. It works. It's helpful. It heals. It helps you to understand. It helps you to pinpoint exactly when it started happening. Why did it happen? You know, and move through the story of it.
And it is, isn't it? It's about being aware of your story.
Yeah.
It's awareness of your story. What happened? And I suppose when I got to that stage, it was just like, okay, why did I become a people pleaser? All I wished to do was understand why I had behaved the way I behaved.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I asked to see a psychotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose in some ways, yes, absolutely it helped. But it was understanding, it was about understanding what had gone on as a child, that actually the things in my life were circumstances out of everybody's control because they were rules and regulations of the hospital, and what happened to me was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
When things are, and if you can then get an understanding, do you know how your parents were brought up, what they witnessed, what they experienced, and their parents before them, and their parents before them. It's knowing the family history, the ancestry history, but we may never know that.
Mm-hmm.
But that becomes ingrained in us. What we witness becomes our reality. So what we experience and what we witness are two very, very strong aspects of how we become. And it's realizing that we can choose to grow through that awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, are you all right there?
Yes. Just a little slip on the chair. The chair almost.
And when we can grow through it, it's not about hating it. It's not about any other feelings, but actually learning to love it, to learn the story. Because myself, yourself, and I'm sure Chloe, we are doing what we do because we've experienced our own healing journey, and we can support others along theirs.
Right.
That hopefully we can come through, they can come through it quicker than we did. Yay!
Yeah.
Yes. So I was, yes, I'm back.
Please carry on.
Okay, let's do that. So what I was gonna say is that I have to really accept that my mission here on this earth was to break karmic cycles and patterns. So I really had to embrace and own it, and learn to let go of all my wounded inner child's attempt to meet her unmet needs, to deal with trauma, and I really had to let go of those. So what I mean by that is, and I think Enolia, you touched on that when you said that, you know, we all have addictions, we all have a way to keep ourselves out of the present moment, and you know, continuing those patterns that we pass on, as you know, Sarah, to our children, you know, because that's how we've been raised and traumatized, sometimes very, you know, sometimes legitimately traumatized. So on what I can say is on my journey, from my experience, is that I really had to embrace that destiny, and sometimes it was painful. very painful to face ourselves and to be present, to actually come to terms that we have addiction. So for me, like just coming to terms with and being honest, radically honest with myself, and allowing myself to, with compassion, still with compassion and kindness, but acknowledge within me those patterns, those addictions. And Enolia, I resonate completely with you. I had workaholic, I was a workaholic. I had a work addiction, shopping addiction, alcohol addiction, smoking, toxic relationships. That's one of the things that I talk a lot, about for women in relationships, addiction to toxic partners, abusive partners. That's an addiction as well. We feel like when we are, victim in that type of situation, with an abuser, with a partner that's very abusive, verbally, physically, whatever it is, that's an addiction in itself, because that really keeps us away from facing our pain. So the reason that brings me back to, the reason why we have addictions, and how powerful it is to recognize that we do have addictions, to be able to see them, face ourselves in the mirror with love and compassion, no rejection. It really doesn't help, to blame yourself. Right. It's human. I mean, we all have them. I know that we would love to, we know better. We want to know better. We want to do better. We all want, to be our best version, or the way God intended us to be. Unfortunately, we got lost in the way. So it's not easy to come to terms with that, perfect idea of ourselves, but recognizing that is very powerful, and enables us to really start healing. And so coming to terms with the fact that I had addictions, that I had trauma, that I needed to deal with that, really was a step for me in taking my power back. So instead of rejecting myself for having addiction, for being human, for lacking compassion, with compassion, I decided to step towards myself and recognize it, and with love. And what I wanted to add as well is the best way to heal addictions, again, is learning to be present with our emotions. And that's really something that I had myself to work through. It's absolutely not easy at all. It is, it takes great strength and courage. And so even for the people, and many of us who desire even and think about, oh, I want to heal, I want to face my addictions, I want to be back in the present moment, just having that thought for me shows great courage and shows great intention and strength of character, because just even thinking about it, takes a lot of honesty with yourself. So yeah, let me know if you want me to talk more about different things, because I can get lost on this, but yeah, presence.
Go ahead, Sara Jane.
Oh, well, you and I have obviously talked a lot while Chloe's been struggling to get back on, and it's great to have you back. The only comment I'm going to make here is, be careful what you're saying to yourself. You're listening. And everything negative you say about yourself, you take on board. And it doesn't matter whether it's said in jest. It doesn't matter how lovingly you think you're saying it. The energy of it hurts you. So it is so important for me. One of the things I do is I praise myself every day. I may achieve what I've planned on achieving. I may not have achieved everything I've planned on achieving. It doesn't matter. It is about an affirmation I use every day. I love you. I am special. I love me. I am the love of my life. Anything like that, you are enforcing and reinforcing the amazing being that you were born, and now it's time to help find that being that has got lost under everything that you've experienced and witnessed.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm going to go to the fact that this is called From Powerlessness to Sovereignty. And I want to talk about sovereignty of self. And see, for me, I love that word because sovereignty, meaning the domain and total understanding and control of a sovereign state. Sovereignty of self is about, understanding yourself enough that you know and dwell and have the domain over self. And instead of me commenting on that, I'm going to bring it right back to you, Chloe, because I want people to hear what you have to say about that sovereignty piece.
Oh, thank you, Enolia. Um, yeah, self like sovereignty starts with self-responsibility. It is absolutely easy to blame, project, feel, just even feeling like a victim of our circumstances. It is so easy to feel like a victim. I don't care what everyone says to me or whatever you say to me. You can speak as much affirmation to yourself. You can try to lie your way to yourself to feel like you have control. But the truth is, as long as you don't heal deep within, you will always feel like a victim. As long as you don't face your emotions and your feelings and your trauma, you will always constantly feel like a victim. And that really brings me back to, Enolia, you talked a little bit about that. We're addicted to success, to have a life that looks good on the outside, to say to everyone and prove to everyone and to prove to ourselves that we're worthy, that we have control on our lives, that we have control on the outcome. And that, unlike when we were children, we now have control. And that's how we cope. So that's when, we can find addiction in working, and we become workaholics, and we are so obsessed with controlling everything, and we become control freaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the only way, paradoxically, to become a sovereign being, as much as it sounds like we have control, on our life, it's actually understanding and letting go of control to become sovereign again. That's what, for me, sovereignty means. It's freedom. And freedom only comes from freedom from addiction and freedom from your pain. And as long as you hold on to your pain, to your story, you will constantly, no matter how much you show, on the outside, whatever poster you paint for everyone, you will always feel powerless and like a victim. And you will constantly be manifesting situations, love situations, friendships, or any types of situation where you will be feeling powerless. So again, as much as we love self-development, affirmations, I love it. Honestly, I love affirmations, and I know the power of words, but our issue today is our issue today is really that we have such a hard time to face ourselves, that we prefer, going around our trauma, going around the deep pain we all feel, because it feels vulnerable, because also, as a society, honestly, as a society, we don't hold space. We don't hold sacred space for each other. We judge, we criticize. So obviously, it's so hard to be open and to face ourselves when we see, even on social media, everyone's beautiful life, everyone's beautiful, everyone's beautiful achievements. How, and no one being real with each other. How can we actually, be vulnerable, be open, be authentic with each other when we are constantly putting up a facade, constantly lying to each other? We don't have leaders or examples of people who are authentic and who are actually, living their words and truly pursuing their life path. So sovereignty means freedom, and freedom from pain, freedom from, and when you're free from pain, you're free from addiction. Just seeing if anything comes through. But yeah, truly sovereignty of being is really living from the pursuing your life's purpose, being guided by spirit, and not having any sabotages on your way, not being on your own way anymore, and really allowing that true being you are, deprived from pain, deprived from your story, deprived from being reborn, basically, and following what you came here to do and intended to be in God's image, how God
Mhm.
intended you to be and created you free.
Yes. Sarah Jane?
I don't know that there's much I can really add to that. I'm very aware of the time and the fact that obviously, sort of, we lost Chloe for so long,
Yeah.
which is such a shame. But it doesn't stop us from at a later date bringing Chloe back on. And so, sort of my feeling is, if there is anything anybody wants to add, before
Yeah.
we close, because we have been going an hour with all the interruptions
Yeah.
from technology, and I think
I
maybe
would
maybe that's a good place for now, but it doesn't stop us from doing a follow-on at some stage.
absolutely. I would just like to add to what Chloe said, which is the key word that resonates for me with freedom, along with what you said, is forgiveness.
Mm.
Because you have to forgive oneself. You have to forgive yourself in the situation. You have to forgive the others who did harm to you, and you have to give your those that are close to you who have done harm to others. And so that's part of it too. So then that way, as you are attaining that freedom, you are no longer looking through the eyes of pain because you've forgiven yourself. And that's all I would add. I think that is absolutely wonderful. Thank you, because you hit on key points as you came back, and wow. Powerful, powerful, because it's like it was rushed, but it was there. It was right there. Chloe, you mean a lot. Your work means a lot. And if anyone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they get in contact with you? How would they engage you as a coach or otherwise?
So you can touch base with me through Instagram, Facebook, through Cloe Cordero Holistic everywhere. And on my website as well, www.cloecorderoholistic.com.
Beautiful. It's yours, Sarah Jane.
Now, thank you, Chloe, for joining us. Thank you for sharing. What's happened has happened. We've got you here. That's the most important thing. And you've been able
Exactly.
to share with us. And thank you. Thank you to Enolia, as always. I'm looking that way, but I have no idea how the video is going to show. So that's where Enolia is at the moment. That could look really strange. Sorry. I have a sense of humour. And keeping humour in everything is important because we are amazing beings. So thank you to you both. And folks, if you are watching the replay, if you're watching the video via YouTube, I will make sure that I have put contact details for all of us under there. So if there's anybody you want to get in touch with, because you prefer to have a private conversation, please feel free to, because at the end of the day, we're here to support people to live their fullest lives. So thank you for sharing with us, Chloe. Couple of weeks' time, Wednesday, not Friday, the 25th of August at 7:30 p.m. UK time. Which, sorry, I've got my microphone in the way. You can't see it. I can, and it's in the way of what I'm reading. It's 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So if you can sort that out between America and wherever you are in the world. We've got another today's conversation, which is just actually going to be Enolia and myself. And we are going to be talking about it is always your choice. And that can be quite a vast topic. We'll see where that one goes. So I hope you will join us for that. You'll find that on Gift of Healing TV, and you'll find there's actual special pages for today's conversation. So please go there and you can sign up for that. And once the videos are recorded, they're always going to be up on YouTube. Thank you, ladies. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Namaste. And folks,
Thank you.
to you. Victoria, thank you for you, because you have joined us and you've been with us. Thank you. And we'll see you again soon. Bye.